Yer. Thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. This is episode 9, a pre-recorded conversation with Sil. To get started, I'm going to play a song that dropped by an affiliate of the Sewer. This is Garden Theatrics.
I don't need a hero to save me, baby. You could call me crazy, spit up on my face or a hug like Jay-Z. Lazy, lately, all I do is hate me. Self-sabotage, coming clutch, I'm shaky. Probably from the drinking and the yapping and the 47 times a day that I overreacted. It's a travesty to live like this, and I'm merely subtracting when I choose to move with silence or the blow of the theatrics. I guess I can't live alone. Guess a 5-year plan wasn't close enough to hold me. Guess a best friend fed up cause I ghost and I'm falling. Guess that love won't last cause I always end up bolting, yeah. And I'm afraid of getting closure, I'm afraid of getting sick of this. And I only get older, I ain't shit but a man with some songs to try to fall. Otherwise I feel like that is dancing on my shoulder, I don't like that. And I got hella insecurities, teeth, ass, skin, false hope, nothing pure on me. I'm begging for the silence but the rain hit beautifully. And maybe I'm just lacking some maturity. Maybe if I dig up on my past, I can super through my skeleton. Fit them to my frame, tell them you're only 7, Nick. You ain't doing no wrong, you are beautiful and heaven sent. Ignorance is bliss, but my innocence irrelevant. Trauma bond via satellite. You are what you eat, so the music keep me sad at night. 16 and now, pocket stuff all that hematite. The only thing I'm lacking is an appetite.
Some slight, some light. That was Theatrics by Garden. This next song that's about to play, How to Blow a Bank by Sewerperson.
Get out, motherfucker, down. No phone calls, bitch. Get up, get up. Yo, get up, get up. Hey, these ladies, don't lift your fucking ass. Get the fuck down. Let's go, ladies, calm down. Get the fuck down. Let's go, move it, move it, move it. Everybody listen up. Take a deep breath and relax. We're here to rob the bank, not you.
Try to be a hero for your wonder where your head's gone. I just had a dream where I pinched 200,000. I'm trying to manifest and I'm banking on that outcome. Wrapped on his skull, I think he just got a brain bleed. I know just what his brain needs, it's money in his hand. Treatment will cost you, it's cheaper if they lost you. I wonder if the pockets could've got you out this jail. And it told as soon as I beg, this shit is done. I'm on his, I blew the profit margin a bunch. I'm just waiting on that Corolla to pick us up. This ain't missing, no, the blood is painted on these fronts. Unscathed and paid, we got away with it. It don't make that face in me, we're both villains. What's death and what's pain if we're already sealing? They upheld the system, restricted our fate, made millions. You pick apart the ankles and make sure it's golden. Make sure your grip on that 45. Target's where I came from and this is how we build slack. This is how we build from a story like can't go back. Razor blade conscious, I don't wanna die here and I don't wanna kill, but I would if I would. Absolutely had to, just look at what we've been through. I don't wanna wallow in a 9 to 5.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, the bot's doing us dirty already, but we're gonna roll with it. Welcome back to Conversations in the Sewer. This is episode 9, From Pain to Poetry, part 3, Sil's Side. I got, right now, very special guest, as I just said, my boy Sil, sitting here with me. Bro is about to go crazy with these breakdowns.
Sir.
I'm going to let him take the lead on 3 records that tilt the room in different ways. We're going to hit Technoanimism, Cannibalism, then It's Quiet, Too Quiet. We're going to keep it all locked in, dialed in, honest. Like always, no BS, just what you hear, what it means, and why it sticks. With Sil, who has intricate breakdowns, I'm expecting texture and intent. Basically how the machine and spirit rub against each other, how hunger and harm blur, and how silence isn't empty. It's loaded. Sil is going to take the lead and peel back the writing, the production, line by line where it matters, and zooming out on the bigger picture when it needs to be. So settle in. This one's going to be a great watch. And before we start with Technoanimism, let's touch base on a couple things that are currently going on. First, I've been saying in the last 2 episodes, episode 10 is called Community Voices. I'm going to have my boy Heber back with me, and we need y'all's submissions. In the Discord, that's in the middle of the screen at the top, it'll be in the description. It'll be literally just go on Discord, and if you're not in the server yet, just type in Sewerperson and you're in the join thing on Discord, and it'll pop right up. In the Discord, do /confess in any channel and submit any experiences that you've had with the underground, whether it's at a show, buying merchandise, in a Discord call, any songs that move you, just anything that you could possibly want us to talk about on this podcast. We need the material for episode 10, which is going to be next week. Or you can comment on the YouTube and I'll see it and I'll be able to talk about it. There's a couple theories on Reddit that we're going to try to talk about. There's a lot. I want this to be a direct mirror of episode 2, where it was fueled with everybody's submissions. So let's get some more community input with this. I know not having an Instagram is a little hard to get everybody involved, but we're gonna make it work. We have so far. So 2, Sewerperson today, since this is a pre-recorded episode, today is the 1st of September. Wake up, it's the 1st of the month. And that boy dropped the craziest freaking set list for Nashville. That literally, it's 25 songs. There's songs like How to Blow a Bank, What If, Comatose. He's doing Incompatible from Nine Tails. He's doing This Is a Lullaby. Like, he's got a lot of variations, like different eras on this. If you're not going to Nashville yet, the tickets are only $18 with tax pre-sale, and then $22 at the door, guys. So if you can make it down to Nashville on September 27th, that set list is going to be worth it. I'll post a link to the playlist I made for the SoundCloud in the description of this too. So if you haven't seen the set list yet, click on that in the description, and you'll probably buy a ticket if you can afterwards. Third, when I post a video, please go comment, like. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. Go back and comment on old videos, what your favorite moment of it was. I know the conversation with me and 99 Nights was a very enjoyable, it just felt like 2 dudes talking. So just go comment that on that video. Engage with the YouTube content while I don't have any means of social media to push us. It'll really help us get in the algorithm, so more and more people who listen to Sewer will see us. It's been proven. There's been 2 lives in 2 different times in 2 separate episodes where somebody in the chat was like, I had no idea this was a thing, but I just got it recommended, so here I am. So go engage with the YouTube content. And before I let Sil take over real quick, I have a couple Pokemon packs that I want to rip. So we're going to rip a Pokemon pack. And whether it's good or not, it's staying in the episode. So wish me luck. I've hit a decent amount in the last couple days, so let's see how it goes. Okay. I have like 6 of these.
It's coming, bro. It's coming.
It's a
Oh,
Snorlax.
man.
I like Snorlax as a...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Snorlax is still fire. That's the boy
Yeah.
right there.
That's the boy.
Sorry.
Not the best pack, you know. Couple reverse hollows, like, I mean, those are in every pack though, so. All right. Phil, you got anything to say?
Firstly, I just want to say the first 3 songs I'm ever gonna break down for everyone to see are 3 songs that are incredibly special. They take us down 3 seemingly very different paths that expose us to very core parts of Miles's ability to storytell, whether it be directly through the words he says or through the way it comes out produced. Each song shows us a different facet of what this man is capable of. And I think that shows us just why we love him. And it shows why it's so easy to gravitate towards a man with such a large catalog of things that appeal not just to everyone, but to someone.
Yeah.
And those little things matter when you need them the most.
Damn, bro. Phil needs his own segments, bro. Like, he could do this. He could do this, bro. All right. We ready to get started with just the first song? Or you wanna?
Always.
All
Yeah.
right, man. So, the first song that he's gonna be breaking down for us is Technoanimism. I have the lyrics pulled up. Hey, it's working the way it's supposed to. Sweet. And I'm gonna get that playing real quick, and we're gonna jam out. Listen to this. I'll scroll through the lyrics as it goes, and then Sil has full creative control of this. If he needs me to pull something else up on stream, I'll do it while he's breaking it down. Like I said earlier, he's leading this all. I specifically chose Sil because he's been active in the chat every single episode with input, whether it was just me and 99 Nights sitting there bullshitting, or if we were breaking down a song and I had to rethink how I was breaking down a song because Sil blew my mind with a doctor's note. Like, you know, like there's some things that that Sil said that have completely changed the course of our episode, and not in a bad way. Sil is a very important contributing member to the community, not just to the podcast, but Sil is a trial staff for Sewerperson's Discord. Not saying like that's a big deal or anything, but like shout out Sil, bro. You know?
Happy to be here, man.
Yeah, without any further ado, Technoanimism by Sewerperson, produced by Tied for Silver, somebody we had on here.
Courses change so quick to call out. You hate me if you knew we had out. You saw it in these photos, see my oil marks are taken throughout. I promise you that you'll feel again. We'll float up to the top of this range. We step into the world we dream. I built of us. I don't want you to suffer here, this broken home. I'd rather die like fucking anywhere, so light it up and watch it smoke. Skeletons and ghosts we knew become a costume. And even now they scare me deeply. It's funny how the fear I face never breathe me.
Damn. Floor is yours, sir. You're muted, buddy.
Hey, bro. That's crazy.
You're good.
That's funny. So, for those who don't know, Technoanimism is a culture of technological practice where technology is imbued with both human and spiritual characteristics. It assumes that technology and humanity can be assimilated into one. Miles uses the term Technoanimism to tell us a tale different to any that he's ever given us before. The story follows the captain of a spaceship and how in their isolation they begin to learn from the AI that controls the ship. Think of the AI from Mass Effect or Cortana from Halo, but more evil, more intent, with real feeling, the kind of feeling that robots shouldn't have. And with this, the captain slowly begins to lose their humanity psychologically, and then starts swapping out parts of their body and rebuilding themselves as something halfway between human and android. Quite literally bridging the gap that humans have always thought never possible. We become something new from a pipe dream.
Damn, I feel like
You'll
I'm
notice...
watching a movie.
Hey, shit. You'll notice the first lines seem very insignificant. They do seem like the start of a story that doesn't make sense yet. And that's part of the charm of this song. We're not meant to understand because we haven't been on the journey. So the song starts with, "Course had changed too quick to call off. You would hate me if you knew me at all." The line seems fairly innocent, and it's telling us on the surface that the destination to which they were approaching came faster than they could have ever anticipated, and there was no chance of stopping. But beyond that, and much more deeper and intrusive, is that this is the true start for the story. This is where we start learning, and we have to start thinking from the get-go. Because the title is what builds up the picture. And not everyone is going to really kind of research what it means unless they're curious as to why it's called that. But when you start putting all these pieces together, you realized that the decisions this person had made had changed the course of history before they could have ever noticed it. They altered themselves beyond belief. And by starting the song off with that line, it already tells us that where they are now cannot be mended. And it kicks things off with a futility which is present through a lot of songs, but in this song feels more final. It feels irreparable, but not negatively. In fact, it serves as a melancholic reflection of a reality check, and yet the underbelly is laced with such a beautiful hope that we're not yet understanding. You'll notice that the second line especially adds a very somber atmosphere on top of what the first line starts with. It seems very unimportant to say, "You would hate me if you knew me at all." Because how could we ever know someone from a story like this? But that's the point. A story like this isn't just about a specific person. It's about who we are, who we can become, the journey that takes us there, and the journey's end. And you'll notice the vocal delivery that this man uses is so very special because it promotes such a disconnect from where humanity and android kind of blurs. It makes everything feel so deeply unsettling, and it offers a whole new meaning to this line by suggesting that things aren't what they seem at first glance. And the deeper you observe, the more disgusted you become with the journey. And yet, even knowing this and being given this opportunity to learn of the story would never dissuade us from taking those same steps. And I think that's part of the beauty of this story. We get to watch human action unfold before our very eyes. And though we might try to persuade ourselves that we would never follow this, we've been given the guidelines to not let humanity go down the same path. Ultimately, human greed will always overpower that. We will always go down the path that benefits us most, no matter how many times we try to stray away from it.
You are cooking, bruh.
Thank you.
And I'm happy that I don't have to read all of this from a chat. Dude, this is sick.
It's funny, I did this song last because I was like, I don't know, I have a lot to say about this song, but I didn't know exactly how to phrase it all at once. There's so many little intricate details, from the delivery to the reason why the ad-libs are repeated, and the way they all culminate into this beautiful picture. This is a vocal picture. This is what it feels like to watch a movie with just your ears. It's so beautiful. I absolutely love this shit.
Drop some W's in the chat right now for Sil, bro. I'm gonna talk to bro, and I want him to re-record, not re-record. I want Sil to record and send me stuff or start posting on a channel. Like, this is already, we're not even 3 lines in, and bro's killing it. So the chat better be going crazy right now, y'all. YouTube chat, come on, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, I appreciate everybody who watches this.
Sick.
Let's go into the third line, because the third line, oh boy, this was a line, funnily enough, this was one of those lines I felt was very unremarkable, because everyone, everybody has those moments where you look back on a photo of yourself and it seems uncanny, and you're like, that doesn't even feel like me. But line 3 of this song, something in these photos seemed off. And then you'll notice he repeats "seem off" in the ad-lib, which is very important to this, because that's not just him echoing for the theme of this song. This is an echo of himself haunting the song throughout. This is a ghost of his past, the same ghost he later mentions in the song that becomes a costume, that allows itself to become embedded so deeply within the tale that we don't even notice for a second the way it underlines the story and the way it affects what things really mean. It's very hard to interpret a ad-lib as something other than an ad-lib until you realize exactly what everything means. And this line itself acknowledges all the uncanniness that came in the line prior, even without observing the deeper meaning of the line. Simply just saying this feels weird to say. You can feel like a photo isn't you, and you can feel like it's strange to look back at yourself. But admitting that is a whole different kettle of fish. It's a very intricate thought process in which, when you start thinking about the journey that you take to get from somewhere, all the steps that you made feel like apparitions of your former self. And when you admit that, your brain starts to unravel itself. But beyond that, the deeper meaning of this line shows us that same reminiscence and looking back through life in a way where it feels like you're watching someone else's story unfold, and you're watching someone in your footsteps follow down the path that you're trying to dissuade them from. And that's one of the most gut-wrenching feelings, to know that you can never truly alter the course you set, even if someone else is going to follow those same footsteps. No matter what, there is no eraser for the journey. We mark ourselves as our own captain's log. And what people choose to do with that is not our decision. Ultimately, human instinct will always follow for self-preservation. And when we look back on ourselves, we don't understand how we got here. We're just happy that we are still here. One of the things that consistently contributes to the atmosphere, again, is the ad-libs. You'll notice how they're just broken, half-wired echoes, and they do seem very inconsequential. But in the grand scheme of things, the fact that they do slither throughout each line in such a tantalizing way shows the disconnect even more, and also gives us a very delicate insight into the gradual integration of robotics into humanity. It is an accurately representative narrative of humanity, and it shows us what technoanimism means at its core. Being able to think about things like this really just shows how incredibly well put together this song is, and just how much thought has gone into the collaborative efforts of Miles and Tied for Silver on this track. Everything is placed together to give us a movie no one normal would ever dream of. And I think that's very important to why we love this stuff. If we can't dream, then someone else will dream for us.
Damn. Holy shit, where's my
Yeah,
popcorn?
that line is... Hey, listen, you know, I feel I'm gonna be here forever, you know? I'm happy for that, though. I love this. Oil marks have taken the walls was another line I didn't fully understand until I decoded my own interpretation of this story. I got kind of the gist of what it meant, and I understood the essence and the environment it created for the song, both the feelings and the imagery and everything it displayed. But something about this line didn't click into my head until after reading the lines that come after it. You know, on the surface, it's a very innocent descriptor for everything in the scene, and it really is just honest imagery adding to the general feel of the track and contributing to the surface level story. But that initial thought is so deceiving and acts as a distraction from the more sinister underbelly that the lyrics offer here. The oil marks aren't the misleading part, though, because oil can be code for anything. Oil to a robot is blood to a human. That is what we run from, and that's what a robot runs from. So, on the surface, it's like, hey, you know, they're just making repairs to the ship. They're just keeping things working. But if that was the case, the oil marks wouldn't have taken the walls. And the walls really are the key part here. Because rather than being the walls of the ship that's keeping them safe when they're on this journey, instead, it's actually the walls of the captain's body, and the oil marks streaking along both their skin and the inside of their body after making fundamental changes to their internal structure by replacing the human parts of their form with cybernetic augments, showing us the gradual process of integration. Another specific contributing factor to the sinister elements of this is taken. It's such a normal word, and yet it's so possessive. Words like painted and covered, they don't have that same command. They don't have that essence of domination that taken has. You know, you see taken used in so many contexts. Taken for granted, taken charge, taken hold. And this word choice adds the perfect possessiveness that represents the relationship being cultivated between the captain and this ship's AI. It could, though, just show a furthering part of the narrative in which this is how technology is possessing us as people, showing us that as we make these strides and grow as a species, the human body will eventually assimilate technology into its infrastructure, and then technology's infinite capabilities will assert its dominance and completely take us over, gradually encouraging us to swap out our weak, feeble parts for something better, something cold, something real, something tangible, something that won't break. I think it's very, very crazy that such a simple word choice can have such a fundamental shift in the narrative. But that's the beauty of it. These small little words, yeah, they're just words on a page, but they're all perfectly chosen to craft the perfect narrative.
Mhm.
They give us everything, not just in a digestible manner, but in a manner that allows us to see in part what Miles sees. It seems small, but these parts of these songs give us glimpses into perhaps just a shred of the insanity this man might feel on a day-to-day basis. And not even insanity. It's such a special thing to be able to see just how powerful the human mind is. And the stories and the views it can concoct when left alone with itself for just a small period of time. From reading books to listening to stories to watching movies, everything in these stories that we are digesting has been siphoned from all these beautiful pieces of information and put in a manner that only we are allowed to see. And that's the beauty of this music.
Damn, you're going
The
much
second
deeper with this
half,
one than I could have.
you know, this song, it's a funny story. When You Go Out Weight Dropped, I listened to it a good 20, 30 times on my own, and I said to my very good friend, who he'll be watching this because he knows how important this is to me. So shout out Jude, love that guy. That guy's awesome,
Shout out, Jude.
fucking great individual. Hell yeah. I came to him a few days after listening, and I was like, "This album's incredible. There's so many special songs, and they make me feel so many different ways. I thought it was crazy. We have in the same album we have Bugs, we have Man of Scrap. You know, those two songs alone.
You know, my chest. Hey.
Yeah. Oil and blood like the bite of my breath. She can't
Uh-huh.
look at me with both of her eyes. Yes, sir. What a fucking song. But those two songs, holy shit. Those two songs are incredible, and I could do the same for those. But this song I didn't understand. And I was sat back in my chair. I was looking up at the ceiling, and I spoke. I was like, I really like the way this song sounds, but I don't think I get it.
It was
And at
also
first
like
I didn't.
in the middle of like I tied for Silver said it was in the middle of a couple bangers too, like
Yeah.
Pigeonhole and Doorman's Plight, like two songs that are
Yeah.
like completely opposite of what this is, because like you said, it's so, the delivery of his words is so soft, subtle, and the ad libs, he's like whispering, like talking to himself while this is all happening, dude. Like it definitely, that has to
Yeah.
be intentional. It has to be intentional.
100%. I think it's part of that's part of the blend, you know. We get pigeonholed. That song is so powerful, so impactful. It's hard to digest that one straight away.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gives us Technoanimism, and we're like, wait a second, I'm still not over the last song.
Yeah, straight
And
up.
before we have time to appreciate Technoanimism and understand it, we're given A Doorman's Plight, one of the most incredibly told stories possibly of all time. I've never in my life looked at a song like A Doorman's Plight and been like, holy fuck, this is just mundane life and it's beautiful. I've never seen an outlook on a song like that and been like, you know what, he's right.
Yeah,
The normal parts of life are beautiful.
exactly.
And then this song, it was one of those, after however many repeats, I was listening and I was like, I understand, I'm getting it, I like it, but what's not clicking? So I brought it to my friend Jude and we listened to the whole album, and we got to the song and I was like, yeah, I don't understand this, maybe you can help me figure it out. And that man altered my brain chemistry. He pointed out very specifically the way the vocals are sung and the way certain words are enunciated to kind of add to the feeling and the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I kept thinking about it, and it was goosebumps. Incredible. I was just like, holy fuck, you're right. This song's so much deeper than I could have ever imagined. And then I kept looking at the lyrics properly, and I was like, holy fuck. This is the song. Yeah. Such a great and special way of telling a story. So, the second half of the intro now. These 4 lines, oh man. I'm splitting these into two different ones. We have, and I promise you that you'll feel again, will float up to the top of this fence. Now, before I get into the line dissection, I want you to notice that he does something with the ad-libs here where he echoes "I promise" twice. Now that comes into play later because of the second part. So the second half of the intro begins to follow the idea of swapping things out for something more hopeful. We're not dealing with this uncanniness just yet. Instead, we're trying to move past the fact that we've changed and become something we weren't supposed to. And instead are trying to find what's next. However, the tone is very superficial. Especially after considering just how intrusive the technology seems to be after this integration in the first half of the intro. It makes us feel like we're being lulled into a false sense of security. The notion that the captain is being promised they will feel again shows a lot of hesitation on their part. There's no immediate jumping into it. The AI has to convince them. They've just spent so long removing all of this feeling, but the only way to coax them into going through with the final stage of integration is to promise them that they'll feel again. You'll also notice here that this is specific to the intro and the bridge because they're the same. This first two lines uses you, and in the second line it uses we. Those pronouns are very important to the psychology of the track and to the impact that they actually have on the story. Up front, it doesn't seem like anything. They're just pronouns. We use those in day-to-day life. We communicate with them, it's just basic grammar. But here it's used to show manipulation. Like nothing you've ever seen before. And it doesn't make sense. Because surely this AI that's just trying to feel life couldn't yet have the capacity for manipulation. The AI isn't human yet, nor will it ever be. But yet, the second line, the AI uses, we'll float up to the top of this fence. We'll. This is the integration in its final form. And this is where they've assimilated and become one. They're no longer two separate entities. They've meshed into something somewhere between alive and dead. And yet, it's not truly death because there's no peace. The second I promise ad-lib is weird. It doesn't feel right because in no other case, other than the uncanniness from "you would hate me," is it repeated. The first time he uses a repeated ad-lib with "you would hate me," he uses it to echo the sentiment that there's something deeper. But here, he echoes the promise, and before they merge, it's one final departing moment of "I still promise." But this isn't departure for either of them, so much as they've become one. And yet, neither of them are truly one. Because there's neither in charge. Both are fighting for this power. But we will come to that. I do think that one of the most important parts of this lyric is the fence. Because saying we'll float up to this fence doesn't mean anything. It's, fences are used to separate two places. There's a fence between heaven and hell, earth. There's a fence between heaven and the gates of heaven. Everything is kept. And that fence here is the line between life and death, between human and robot, between reality and fiction. Everything in this moment seamlessly blends in a very special way. The second line, the second part to this line we step into the world we had dreamed, continues the use of the we pronoun, showing the belief of the AI has now become one with the captain. This is the world we had dreamed. This is what I had fed you. This is everything I'd made you believe. This is what we wanted. But it's not. And because only the ship knows the true intent of this dream, you'll notice he says, I promise you. Once again, changing the pronoun and assuming themselves as two separates. I promise you, just keep on holding my hand. Trust me that this is what is right for us. Trust me that when you take this final step, I haven't betrayed you. I don't have the capacity to betray you because I am you. And you wouldn't betray yourself, would you? Now, the manipulation here is just one side to this. There is a much more hard to read underlining sense of hope. Opting for this pronoun change shows that while they might not be physically joined, their spirit has gradually become one. And they're moving towards the physical assimilation. Their wants are slowly starting to align with one another. At least in the eyes of the captain. There is the slow, marked belief that, you know what? This AI is right. I wouldn't lie to myself. I should trust him. Wait a second. This is what I wanted all along. Or is it? Because there are no real indications of what the ship wants. We don't know if it wants life or if it wants something darker. And it leaves the ending feeling really sinister. After all that hope that the captain has been given, all you can really look at it with is, this doesn't seem right. Something about this is wrong. And now that they're reaching the culmination of all the tactics employed to coerce and entice the captain, she will finally make that jump to obstruct their humanity and replace it with something less alive, something more logical. The ship will become the dominant hand in this playing field. And that's the intro. The intro sets up a very sinister story with some very sporadic moments of hope and a weird feeling of uncanniness that at first doesn't make sense. But as things unravel and we start to see the war between the captain and the ship, but also the internal struggle of the captain and the manipulation tactics employed by the ship so that this assimilation can go smoothly, we begin to realize that this is part of the fear that could come with something like the belief of technoanimism. We can never truly understand as a species what something without feeling could want. Because though it may not live a real, tangible, physical life, it does live a life. And though those emotions that it might feel are not the same ones that we feel, they have needs, and needs must.
Look out for ChatGPT.
Verse. Hey, I'm coming for ChatGPT, bro. He's gonna go through me now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck that boy up.
Yo. I'm dead.
That's my war. That's my technoanimism right there. It's coming for my jump, bro.
Damn. I'm loving this so far.
Oh yeah.
I'm cozied up. I'm freaking soaking it in, man. I'm just like, yo, he's right. Holy shit.
So, verse 1 starts off with, "We were made to be this head full of teeth, at least until she learned of her seam." It's a very forthright analogy of what it means to be human. The word choice here contributes to the uncanniness of the bridge in the intro, and continues to push the disconnecting feeling throughout the song. It seems almost critical of how simple and unremarkable our design is, and there's a hint of something almost unimpressed that underlines this very line. As if our design being unremarkable is just what makes it remarkable. A head full of teeth? That's such a disgusting image, and yet it's not wrong. We're a vessel made up of flesh that employs notions that most people don't even take a second to realize. Our thoughts come in the form of subconscious actions, and we parade ever forward, much like robots ourselves. It's only when you take a moment to realize just how autonomous everything in your life is that you finally realize how alike both things are. Noticeably, though, the next line follows on with this unimpressed feeling. The tonality tells us that our design was really only made to be so plain and unremarkable until we learn what makes us human. Those small little intricacies that I was just talking about, paired with how easy it is for us to break, and yet how easy it is for us to mend. It's stupid and illogical, and yet it's perfect. That's something technology could never seek to understand, because it's built in a way that makes sense. It's designed, it's perfected, it's crafted. Something that artisans through countless decades have made many little steps on the way to perfection, that chasing perfection still hasn't ended. You'll see in the form of phones. We get a new model every year, you know? And they're always unimpressive, but they're a step forward. By that same logic, technology is just an extension of ourselves. We created it, and therefore, in part, we are it. We're made of flesh, we're made of organs, we're made of stupidity. But we have blood like they have oil. And that makes us someone else's technology. This line, though, also feels like a very important mark for the story, in which the aforementioned captain learns that even though this is our design philosophy, and that being human is part of what makes us so absolutely brilliant. When we find out what our undoing is, we actively search for the cure for that. People have been searching how not to die for eternity, and each stride we make towards death leads more and more of us into it. There will only ever be a very select few lucky people that ever truly grasp the depth of what living forever is. And it's not some easy concept to grasp. It's not something you can go and buy at a store. It's not something you can wake up tomorrow and be like, you know, I think I will live forever. It's only through the things that we create and the technology that we craft, the stories that we tell, and the lies that we sell, can we live forever. The only way for us to ever stop ourselves from being unraveled and forgotten to time is to make sure that our mark is just as important as the words left for us to follow. And that leads us in to the next two lines. And gutted fibers deep in her jeans and stuffed it back with something pristine. Following that same knowledge I've just imparted on you from the last two lines, this first line has this air of disdain laced within it as a prior acknowledgement of how imperfect we are, and that now that we've acknowledged it and we're seeking a way for us to not unravel, the captain has ripped out parts of that humanity. Using specifically gutted fibers adds a very serious harshness paired with the brittleness of humanity. And phrasing things in this way with two jarringly opposite feeling words, gutted being very harsh and fibers being something that are soft and quite brittle and very easy to break, but also easy to shape, emphasizes the impact of the start of the human parts being removed. The second line here, and stuffed it back with something pristine, moves on to the parts being swapped out officially. This is how they got here. This is the final nail in the coffin for the captain's humanity and for the ship's shot at life. This is where both of those things end. This is where the goal becomes null. There is no longer a goal when this starts. But you'll notice they're still fighting. So, by swapping something out for something pristine, the cold, sturdy, reliable technology that will serve as a much more comfortable backbone that wouldn't crumble under the same pressures that frail humanity would, you'll notice that the word choice really is so specific in contributing to that roughness that's intentionally placed to craft the perfect impact and weight of the decision that was made when making these fundamental changes. For example, both gutted and stuffed follow the same power, word-wise. You hear them and they're not soft. They're gritty, they're coarse, they're hard to listen to. No one wants to be gutted. and the forcefulness of Stuffed adds such a alarming and unsettling atmosphere and gives us almost the perfect imagery of just how powerful and hard the process is. But in that same vein, the weight of the decision becomes nullified by the fact this seems like a logical choice. This seems like the perfect next step. And so the coarse, painful feeling that these words show us will no longer have any bearing in literally just the next line. So, the next line confirms that. All right, and I've learned from you, but it fucked with my head. And I ripped out what was vital instead. The second half of this verse starts with these two lines for a very specific reason. This marks the turning point in realization that this success of removing the unremarkable and very easy to erase and interchangeable parts of humanity for the prominent and logical technology now becomes a feeling of complete and utter disgust in the face of the captain's own consequences of destroying what makes them human and what makes them feel whole. The essence of completeness that comes from our design, our philosophy, our makeup. It makes a point of showing acknowledgement from the captain, and there's a subtle appreciation in the lyrics, undermined by a much more impossible to hide disappointment, by implying that even though the AI has learned to rewrite the brain chemistry of the captain by feeding this constant stream of information, this inescapable feedback loop that has continued to disrupt the signals that have driven them this far. They've altered beyond repair the synapses of the captain's brain and have shown us the slow transition as they move from humanity to something more. But it's left them feeling much more damaged and empty and hollow than feeling human ever could have done. The next line, and I've ripped out what was vital instead, acts as a direct confirmation of that analysis too, by further acknowledging that by venturing down this route and blurring those lines between humanity and technology, there's been a mutually agreed upon destruction of the vital parts of the genetic makeup that contribute to all factors of feeling alive, essentially making the captain dead and the ship not alive, like it strived for. And thus, in striving both parts on the captain's behalf, striving to seek the better eternal and less ephemeral nature of life, paired with the ship's want to feel human, has been both eliminated and subdued during this process. Neither of them will ever be able to truly function in the way that they've desired throughout this song. In trying to strive for this more advanced life form, all either of them has achieved is more death. The philosophy of being human will never feel real to either of them anymore. They will lose the very special and integral part of what makes us real, because they disrupted the parts of our brain that feed us that recognition. The final two lines of verse 1 and the culmination of assimilation, with "now soothed I stare through walls in my bed, existing in this state of pretend," offer us a depressing display of dissolution, resulting in the hollowing out of a once promising whole. "Now soothed" offers us a somewhat meritable acceptance and shows an effort to come to terms with the path thus far. However, the words that follow that acceptance dull out the sentiment completely. They nullify any sort of meaning behind them, because they're effectively just staring through walls in their bed. It shows us this imagery that's reminiscent of the dull, dreary emptiness that now remains, and confirms that the lines are finally completed. The blur becomes them. We have been taken on a journey that shows us the internal terraforming, and that has now finished. Here, sleep becomes a thing of the past, and yet the single shred of humanity left in this husk clings to the habitual loves of humanity. And so the two of them, now joined as one, fold into one of those same habits. But sleep will never come, just as death never will either. And so for eternity, they will now stare endlessly, blankly, waiting for time to pass. Because rest is illogical. Rest is human. And that is what they are not. The final and climactic line of this verse shows the harrowing reality and uses words that encapsulate the state of non-existence almost emphatically. Existing in this state of pretend acknowledges finally, on both parts, that neither half of this new whole are not only truly not one, but they're not real. Neither the once human husk nor the flesh steel wiring get to experience the beauty of true life, and instead exist in this faux existence somewhere between life and death, a self-created limbo that acts as a personally created, inescapable, perpetual torture machine until something finally corrects the course they set upon themselves. And that is how verse 1 ends, with such a bitter reality and the perfect narrative of the course of humanity that we set ourselves upon long ago, and where we will continue to venture toward. Between verse 1 and verse 2, there is the repetition of the intro. It's placed as the bridge between verse 1 and 2, acting as a reminder for the story and also emphasizing the truly gritty and unpleasant nature of things. It offers a moment of respite before cutting into a deeper, more vivid regret, and also simultaneously acts as a reminder of just how unnatural the course of action they ventured down has been. And it also serves to remind us that once again, humanity fell for the same temptations that have plagued us since conception. The desire and greed for something more out of life, an existence beyond that which we have, which is deeply rooted in a lack of appreciation for the truly beautiful nature of life and the magic that comes with living. Something humanity often remains blissfully ignorant of and ungrateful for, right up until we lose it. And once that magic that has fueled us is lost, so are we. And that is what acts as the bridge between verse 1 and verse 2. And it's part of what makes verse 2 so much more special. Because verse 2 starts on a completely different note than the rest of the song. Burn it down, send it down like we used to. Shifts the focus and emotion from the gradual descent into non-existence to a somewhat heartfelt pleading and resolute regret. The regret and guilt laced through this verse is the first sign of humanity rekindling itself within this grotesque amalgamation of blurred lines. Beyond the regret, though, there's an air of reminiscence in this first line, and another indication of the use of we helps add to the fondness of the memories that still linger within them, and serves as a reminder that there was a time where they both felt perhaps happier, or at the very least felt more content with the way things were, and were free from the humbling regret that now encumbered their shared shell. It's very important that there is a final spark of humanity forming within the fresh circuitry in this shell. Because it shows despite the efforts to remove humanity, both in the song and within human history, you'll notice that anytime we've tried to take the emotional, seemingly kind of facetious reality we give ourselves, the more human, more real, raw, magical, the real fantasy of life that comes from the way we are designed and created will always shine through. It will always spark up and create small little embers that slowly form the flame of life. You'll notice that even looking at simple things that we experience in day-to-day life, you'll see stories that are seemingly insignificant of people speaking with AI and forming relationships, which is ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. But to them, they probably see the magic of humanity within them. And they'll probably notice themselves the beautiful little intricacies in this coding that also makes it an extension of ourselves. You'll see really silly things too, like actual robots. There's scientists out there creating robots for all sorts of things, whether it be walking dogs, carrying crates, repairing planes. All very human things.
Throwing out trash.
And yet we're designing, exactly, and we're designing them in our own image. Because we're frail and we're not meant to last. But we can create something that will make us last. And while they may not directly beat us, they are an extension of ourselves. They are our magic. Because while magic and fantasy and these things that come that make life more bearable in the form of things like games and stories and music and all these wonderful little things. This is what we are giving to the world. The magic that we create fuels the dreams of those who come next. And that's one of the beautiful parts of this song too. It shows us that no matter how far that we devolve, no matter how much of ourselves we remove, there will always be sparks that reignite human compassion and love, and everything that we stand for becomes something that we build. And everything we build becomes us, not the other way around. We might be the origin, but they are our children. Which follows very neatly into line 2 of verse 2. Effigy and effigy I built of us two. That's something very niche. It's a very niche word choice that might be lost within such a beautiful song. This verse is special, but this lyric very specifically is the best one in this song by far. In just 8 single words, Miles manages to not only capture the essence of the entire track, but also tells the entire story in its coalesced state, and boils it down to some of the most incredibly well thought out imagery you could possibly imagine. And that's why it's so good. Because we wouldn't imagine it. This line encompasses the idea that the captain sculpted this body over time into a home for both them and the AI. You'll notice I use sculpted there because that's what we do. We build things. We create things. And in part by creating this home for themselves, this is humanity in its rawest form. Building a shelter to house the two of them in the same protective little igloo and allowing them to become one. Quite literally, the captain built an effigy out of their own flesh that would create space for both to try to feel life, if not actually feel it. Using effigy is perfect, but it's only specifically perfect for this song, because the song and story it seeks to tell pair perfectly with the meaning of the word effigy. Effigies are roughly made models of a person that are made solely for the purpose of being damaged and destroyed out of anger or for protest. And yet, here that is subverted. This isn't to be destroyed. The captain might have destroyed themselves, which is part of that definition. But they've subverted it by making it a safe haven for the two of them. They might have quite literally altered everything about themselves and the chemical infrastructure, but they've done something beautiful. They've given life to something else, at least in small part. And so, though life as we know it might not be the life that the two now feel, this robot, this ship AI, this piece of technology is now being imbued with the magic that we come genetically predisposed to. The lines that follow this in the entire second verse perhaps don't hit the same without the context of the full song. But they show the gradual return of this humanity, the way these sparks and these embers begin to reignite and foster this idea that the captain did all of this on purpose. They tried so hard to build the perfect fortress for the both of them. Whether it meant they fell into the custody of this AI so that they could feel life, or so that they could both experience this dual reality in which they saw two different fields of view. But, and I don't want you to suffer here. This broken home, I'd rather die like fucking anywhere, lean more towards a pleading, sorrowful regret, and offer us a pretty unnerving perspective that those lingering scraps of humanity that still remain attached by a thread has left them pitying the fact that they couldn't offer what they wanted to offer this AI. They couldn't achieve the dream that they both supposedly wanted. Saying that they don't want the AI to suffer is a painfully lack of awareness from the fact that the technological parts harbor none of the same sentimental regrets, and feels very heartbreaking that while the captain may not want this place that they've built to become one of suffering, the inverse of that really couldn't be further from the truth. Because this other part of themselves serves only logic and fact, not the same fictitious, beautiful sentimentality that humanity craves on a regular basis without even realizing it. You'll notice that the sentimentality follows immediately, giving us a sad and yet apathetic recognition of what they've truly become, this broken home. It's a direct representation and acknowledgement of the abomination that they now form, and it also links very well to the idea that they quite literally are nothing but a homemade effigy. I'd rather die like fucking anywhere is such a wanton, almost raw expression that gives us a brief and honest recognition that simply letting things end now would be a better ending for them as they stand, which really undermines the entire track with a feeling of futility that I mentioned in the beginning, that I said that we'd get into. And it makes the story thus far feel more like a better reality check than a journey of realization and discovery. Suddenly, this isn't just a story of reality thus far. It's a, hey, you keep making these same mistakes, even though you know where it ends. No matter how many times we repeat the journey, we make the same trip over and over again. And something about that is definitively special. Because that's kind of what feeling is like. We go through the trials and tribulations of things once, and then we go through them again and again and again until home becomes not a destination, but becomes the journey we find ourselves on. It adds a very real commentary on what it's like to feel. And it captures truly what living is like. Verse 2, second half, starts on a very similar note as the first half does. With "So light it up and watch the smoke plume, skeletons and ghosts we knew become a costume." You'll notice that, like I said, thematically, the first line seems very similar to "burn it down, send it down like we used to." It has that same feeling of nostalgia and leaves us with the notion that perhaps it's finally time to burn down the bridges that led them here in order to prevent the same mistakes from being made again. A direct recognition that there is a way for this to end, for this cycle to not be repeated. But it also feels like a brutally honest admission of the wrongdoing and betrayal of humanity, the nature of life, and the magic that helps create the beauty in those things. It's a final raw admission that everything we did up to this point, at least in part, has been wrong. And yet being wrong is part of the journey. Because if we were always correct, if we were always perfect, then we would have never pursued something further. We would never have had a goal in the first place. We would never have dreamed for something more, because we would have already been that more. So being able to consistently make those wrong decisions and be wrong, the capacity to be truly incorrect, is the most correct thing about human design. It's what truly gives us gravity in the atmosphere of the world. The line that follows lends itself to something more depressing, and also that same sinister melancholy we've seen previously in the song, with a very unnatural underbelly that shows us not a pleasant reminiscence, but more of a grim reminder that the things of the past become less human and instead become a new skin to hide under and emulate, a cover for the true nature of what they've become now, and shows just how much they're removed from reality, just how removed from human they are. The line is less about regret and seems more akin to the self-preservation which they've been clutching toward this entire time. Another sign that, while wrong and uncouth, there's still life inside the husk that's laced with this barrenness and disdain. Ending the song with, "And even now they scare me deeply. It's funny how the fear I face you never briefed me," is thematically and atmospherically perfect. These two lines are honestly nerve-wracking and completely unsettling. The first line continues a lot of the same feeling from the line before and gives us a more personal insight to the last sparks of humanity by asserting that a small part of themselves still feels fear from all the sacrifices that they've made. And also, the ghosts from the memories that now serve no purpose serve to constantly instill a harsh reminder of everything they've unleashed upon themselves. The repetition of even now adds to the hesitation and shows the fear present via the vocal delivery and the lyrics, a very subtle effect that adds to the cumbersome atmosphere that is representative of the weight of the actions that brought them here. The climax of the song ends on the cruelest twist of fate and the final nail in the coffin for the song. The ultimate bitter realization that the captain's perspective, in which they retrospectively realize that ultimately the AI had fed them a never-ending string of lies that led them down this path. And after always promising that they would feel again, and that they'd make it to a place akin to a paradise, they never once made it known that all they'd really truly be left with, in the aftermath of it all, is fear from the guilt and regret that came with breaking down the barriers between two things that were never meant to become one. Ending on that final note of futility adds to really just how beautiful the story is, and shows us just how easy it is to fall into the temptations of our promise of something more, and truly act as a commentary on human nature and greed, by showing us that in our quest for a greater existence, we often lose sight of what makes existence so great in the first place. And that is Technoanimism.
Hey chat, I'm not exactly sure how he's expecting me to follow that up, but that was Sil's take on Technoanimism. I'm fascinated. I knew what Technoanimism was, but I didn't know the imagery in the song could be so deep. You know, I read the lyrics and listened to the song a couple times, but I didn't really take notes this time, you know, since you're steering the ship. But yeah, that was amazing. Chat better be going crazy for that one.
I hope so. I mean, that song is just a small shred of what's to come.
Weird. So what's to come? Cannibalism?
Cannibalism's up next, which feels oddly fitting.
All right. So, you have anything to say before I play it?
Let the song play. Yeah.
All right. This is Cannibalism by Sewerperson, produced by Moonsight and Hateful. Trying to make sure that I say all the producers' names because you guys are important. Here it is.
Save me from another heartache. I promise you'll come back and see you one day. The sand in my hourglass falls a heartbeats. I cling to the smell you spilled into my bed sheets. I listen to my heart, but it just brings me bad news. The stars in the sky burn out the same damn roof. I wonder if she feels when I'm at the end of my wits. I figured out the code, and I haven't slept since. The memories of war, but I laugh in my room. And maybe if I'm bored, I can go to war too. Bullets in my neck, strapped with my lung fluid. At least I miss my heart, so I can still love you. my heart so I can still love you. So I can still love you.
Song's so beautiful.
I love that song. That song is absolutely incredible. What a song. Oh man. Let's start with Cannibalism. This is Cannibalism deconstructed. Cannibalism is a cynical, twisted tale about the intricacies and self-sacrificial nature of relationships and love, masquerading as a troubled wartime anthem. Both the story and the meaning of the song begin at the title, cannibalism, which, as most people know, is the act of consuming another person. In this case, though, cannibalism is used as a metaphor for the often callous underbelly of love and relationships. Rather than being devoured literally, love is something that often chews us up and spits us out. It's an intangible force that devours those who are entangled in it. The song as a whole seems to deal with love more as an ordeal rather than something to be remembered and cherished. Treating it as a battlefield seemingly mitigates all the positives and reduces it purely to a base level of what it offers and why a lot of what it offers can have such evil connotations. Verse 1 starts with possibly the most meaningful line of the song. Save me from another heartache. I promise to come back and see you one day. This first line specifically is a line that acts like a soft, silent plea, which is the kind of haphazard begging that you utter under your breath when you're at the end of your rope and you're crying alone in your room. His use of another here really specifically insinuates that this is not the first time that he's been here. This is just another cycle repeating itself. And just like all the times before that, he's back at the same edge that he finds himself at time and time again. And yet, despite that, he still goes back. The fact that in the second line, he uses, I promise to come back, really just emphasizes that. In that same vein, though, using save me in the first line, instead of saying that he will save himself, suggests that no matter how many times he's gone through these failed, ambitious attempts at love, he will continue to hold out hope that there's someone able to save him, both from the cycle and from himself. This is another classic example of times in Miles' music where he's absolved himself of any notion of autonomy. He's leaving his fate in the hands of not only someone else, but also the universe, because he spent so much time being puppeteered by love, the universe, and other people, that trying to navigate things consciously probably feels insurmountable. I promise to come back and see you one day begins to highlight the traumatic nature of heartbreak. It shows that though he still wants to revisit love and wants it to be an anchor point that he can find his way back to, that's not always going to be the case. The fact that he has to promise to come back makes it seem like he's reminding himself that this truly is one of the few things in life that gives him purpose. And that's almost poetically pathetic. It gives a somewhat strange sense of reliance on love as a natural force, not because it's something he enjoys, but rather because it's a known evil. In his mind, it provides additional comfort rather than being lulled into a false sense of security or losing pieces of himself in a new unknown situation. By having love and a situation that can give him love as an anchor point, it frees himself from the tragedy of the unknown. And I feel like that's something I can relate to, Dev can probably relate to, but also everyone that listens to the music can relate to. Oftentimes we find that love isn't something we chase because it feels right with a specific person, but because it's the only time we could feel alive, feel human, feel safe. Being in love for a lot of people isn't something they do purely for the purpose of finding that relationship, of building those foundations. Instead, it becomes homogenized and turned into a place of refuge, a place where you go to escape from the things that burns us down. But that's not what love is about. And that's something this song tries to combat. As opposed to love being a battlefield that this song shows us, love is much more akin to magic. That same magic you will have heard me talk about in my breakdown of Technoanimism. Once again, the natural forces of the things that make us human come back to form the things that are most beautiful in life. The lines that follow this, the sand in my hourglass falls to heartbeats. I cling to the smell you spilled into my bed sheets, ring with the sentiment that the duration of his existence equates to love, that he only truly lives for as long as he's in love, or perhaps that he doesn't actually feel alive without being in love, which is something that he's echoed in songs since Cannibalism, with a song like Dixon Steel, with the lyric, I was born soon as you kissed me, and I died right when you left, which is a lyric based on the monologue from Humphrey Bogart in A Lonely Place from 1950, showing us that these feelings aren't uncommon, and that for a man, this is often what love is like. We really tend to only feel alive for as long as love is present for us. And it's one of the biggest struggles of maturing. Realizing that love is a pillar and a cornerstone of humanity. It's something to cherish. It's something memorable. It is not a spine. It is not there to support us or to reinforce us or to help us calibrate our navigation through life. Love is something positive. It's something that acts as a cushion for when we're sad, but uplifts us when we achieve something, when we're happy. But this song has no acknowledgement of that. It only shows the grueling and sad reality of when love leaves, and how after the first time experiencing it, we continue time and time again to chase after that. You'll notice that following this line, he says, I cling to the smell you spilled into my bed sheets. It shows us that some parts of love still remain after the fact of love escaping us, and that those parts are the ones that we hold on to immediately after the heartbreak, because it helps you feel grounded whilst still softening that impact. Furthermore, spilled here is perfect because it usually refers to an accident. Like if you were to accidentally spill a drink, or if you accidentally spilled paint on a fresh canvas. And it makes it seem like their mark on his space was never intentional. And yet, despite that wording, there's not actually any sadness to it. Instead, that knowledge that it was never supposed to happen in the first place, most likely, feels more comforting. And though he still clings to that smell that's been spilled into his bed sheets, there's still that underlying recognition that this isn't the first time an accident has happened, and it won't be the last. Following on from this is I listen to my heart, but it just brings me bad news. This line acts as a reminder that even just listening to your heart can bring you heartache and pain. It's just a different and sometimes harder to bear pain that sits in a much heavier place. The line coming after this really cements just how powerful and how hard and heavy and strong that love can be in its impact. By saying that the stars in the sky burn out the same damn route, it really does cement the idea that pain from love is not only to be expected, but it is one of the natural orders, and that it's literally written in the stars themselves. Perhaps suggesting that for a lot of men, the harsh realities of love is an inescapable fate. And now knowing the implications of this line, it starts to reflect some of the sentiment shown later in the tract that denote futility that comes with love, both in practice and in theory. Those same trials and tribulations that come with it are a tale as old as time itself, and are effectively intertwined within the stars. Ending off this verse is, I wonder if she feels when I'm at the end of my wits. I figured out the code, and I haven't slept since. When I first ever read these two lines, I, as I'm sure many other people probably have felt when truly hearing those words, was hit with kind of a grueling and uncomfortable reality check. That oftentimes, after instances of love, when coming face to face with everything that's happened, you begin to realize what things really meant. And these lines act as an internal monologue in which contemplation occurs that if only we notice that our breaking point is fast approaching, then does the other party ever notice that same breaking point? Is our suffering visibly reflected? And it offers a curiosity that, if it is reflected, is there any remorse from the other party involved? Time and time again, when in relationships, we find ourselves offering everything. We stand as both provider, caregiver, comforter, backbone, anything. And yet, it's very rare that we are given the same reflection back. And while that may not be malicious, it's a very gritty and unnerving thing to come to terms with. It makes it hard to look at love in the same light you would when freshly presented with it. Because you're forced to recognize that when you're really at the end of your wits, when you are fighting for those last shreds of love that are slowly falling through your hands like grains of sand, you have to remember all those times that you visibly reflected everything you felt, and the remorse that you've shown is never given back. And by immediately following that with, I figured out the code and I haven't slipped since, is that direct admission that this is a confirmation of the fact that most people, when they've been here and when they get here, we've realized that the answers that we could be presented with are answers that we already knew. They're answers that we tell ourselves, answers that help us cope. And yet, when we're forced to truly confront them, we're left to writhe in the discomfort of knowing that we were right. And there's nothing truly more deceptive and heartbreaking, and there's nothing that feels like cannibalism more than knowing how well you know yourself. And knowing that no matter how many times your mind gnaws away at the parts of your resolve and breaks down the parts of you that try to love and try to keep hope, that when everything crumbles down and you're left in a blank box with yourself, you were the only one who truly knew what was going to happen from beginning to end. And something about that really makes this the perfect reflection of love conceptually and war in practice, and how the two blend together in this story and perfectly show different sides to one another. Breathing in that same vein, the chorus starts with, "The wind reeks of war, but I laugh in my room." A line that effectively suggests that he does see love everywhere in this track, and that we see love everywhere as a track. As humans, it's ingrained within us to feel and acknowledge love as it circulates around us. And yet, oftentimes, after we break out of that space, we make sure to isolate ourselves from it and keep ourselves adjacent to protect ourselves from all the tragedies that love might entail. However, the idea that he's laughing at it makes it feel pitiful. And it's a same reflection that after the occurrence of love and after the occurrence of heartbreak, when you're left with the option to try again and you're forced to confront the memories that now seek to haunt you, all you can really do is take pity on yourself for still trying to pursue that whilst also trying to remove yourself from it. It's so inherently idiotic to want to love but not want to be in love. And time again, we will fall into that same trap. And as much as we should hate ourselves for it, instead, there's some solace and comfort in the notion that it's not just one of us that fall for it. We all fall for this time and time again. It's just another thing that makes us human. The ability to try again, despite not wanting to try again. Coming directly after this line with, and maybe if I'm bored, I can go to War 2, continues that same vein, that same breath, by adding a very important touch of disenchantment with love. Suggesting here that it really is, at this point, a means to an end. Something to pass the time. The way this line is written, the words used make love seem more like a hobby rather than a magical experience between two people. And by trivializing love in this way, it speaks volumes about how desensitized not only perhaps Miles is, but perhaps we are. Because there's no sense of yearning for the ephemeral, dreamlike essence that is so deeply rooted in love. Instead, there's just a, hey, I guess I can do this now. I guess it's time. It's the same kind of feeling that you might feel after a long day where you've built up all these plans in your head to do things when you're done with your day. You're like, you know, I could go after work, for example. I could go home. I could hang out with people. I could socialize. I could progress. I could feel success. And instead, for love, it's just like, oh, there's this too. I guess if there's nothing else. It's such a unsettling reality to which most people come. And that when nothing else is there, sadly love is. And that contributes to how trivialized it is. Changing things up a little bit with the end of the hook, you have bullets in my neck, shrapnel in my lung fluid. At least it missed my heart, so I could still love you. By ending the hook with this, it adds a very beautifully poetic and eloquent note to such a short and sweet hook. The first line talking about all the damage that we soak up when in love, but yet still being pathetically grateful for still having that opportunity. As though all that really matters is that we're able to come to a point after the fact that we can still love. Being able to love isn't special, but being able to have the usefulness as a conduit for love is a purpose very hard to replicate elsewhere. Expressing things in this way has such a bitter, twinged with hopeful touch about being wary of a damaged heart that could fall into disrepair at any moment. Really shows how perfect of an ending to the hook this is, and makes it also align completely with the full meaning of the song's title. There's only one part that he doesn't want to be devoured, and that's the one part that is easiest to bleed dry. As humans, we always pride ourselves on the fact that as long as we can love, we can breathe. We can progress as long as that's still there. But there's nothing happy about that. It's a sad, very disillusioned acceptance that sometimes reality isn't about the magic of being in love. but it's instead about the magic of being able to push forward. And yet, though being able to continue on is a magical thing, throughout this song, there's no real appreciation of that. Instead, it's disdain and a complete utter disappointment in the fact that this seems to be all we can live for. The generations upon generations of humanity have existed purely chasing the same thing that we still chase to this day. And despite that being pathetic, it's also uniquely special to us. It's beautiful, but jarring and uncomfortable. And it's especially real. Going into verse 2, we have another night fucked up all on my own, stringing out the Christmas lights from a couple years ago. By starting off with these first two lines, it rings out the hollowing loneliness that tends to fill us when we're trapped in isolation, when we're at breaking point and we've finished experiencing something that kept us feeling alive, and are now left with the knowledge that we don't know what to keep living for. Which leaves these two lines feeling increasingly more relatable than any normal person would be willing to admit. This level of vulnerability is such an incredibly special and key part of this song, and reflects emphatically the intention of the lyrics and the feelings that the song itself seeks to evoke. It's truly a uniquely special and beautiful insight into both the human psyche and perhaps Miles himself. We get to see how he may look at love, but also how he thinks other people look at love. And about how, instead of appreciating the nature of love, we only see it for its material value and what it can offer. Whether that seems to be negative or positive doesn't matter. All that matters is the reality of how factual the gravity is. Leading on with, oh, it hurts me to think about the times that I failed. I'm forgetting what I was as I keep my eyes closed, is heartbreaking. It is gut-wrenching to talk about distress and trauma imposed upon yourself because of how much you've been bent and folded to mold into the ideal person for other people. Time and time again, we often find that we change ourselves individually and switch out external and internal parts of what makes us us to match the things that are asked of us. And after a point, we become unrecognizable to ourselves. We become shells of who we become shells of who we once were. And to quote a more recent song title of Miles, perhaps we become a man of scrap. These same two lines also offer a much darker observation of the intent behind this song's title. Both people and the world around us swallow parts of our whole and leave the unusable parts of ourselves as a mangled husk left to roam the earth without purpose, seeking only meaning in the things that once offered us meaning, and not wanting to pursue the void and what could come after. After this, we have If I'm Lost, I Don't Ever Want to Be Found. Keep me safe, but I'm at war. This comes right after and expresses a seemingly habitual self-destructive want to not be taken away from this. And even though we desire to be safe and free from harm, the momentary reluctance with the stumbling of, but I'm at war, shows an understanding that even despite us wanting to be safe, we do and will always continue to subject ourselves to both the vulnerability that comes with love, but also the possibility of old wounds resurfacing and adding even more damage, creating bigger craters in ourselves, in the parts of ourselves that still remain. This acknowledgement that while we understand the dangers that come with love, and simultaneously subject ourselves to it repeatedly, emphasize previous sentiments that all we care about is fulfilling our capacity for usefulness, while disregarding our own safety and health. If you take a moment right now, as I continue, to really think about times in your life where you've loved or love has ended, you might notice that, in part, you're not yearning necessarily for that person back, but you're yearning for the usefulness of what comes of being someone's person. The purpose of existing for another person removes the need for purpose to exist for yourself. It's a difficult and often irrefutable part of most people's lives that finding ways to live comes by living for someone else. And part of this song is dealing with the unhealthiness, but also the rawness of that feeling. The being able to live for someone else is special, but it's also the easiest way to destroy yourself. It's the easiest way to become unrecognizable, to lose those little fragments of yourself that after the fact you wonder what happened. You can think about any time you've been in love and any time after it, you've thought about the little things that came before. You might think, what did I used to do? When I was without this, who was I? What could I do? What did I bring to the table for myself? And how did I occupy myself? How did I keep living without my reason for living? And having that be so desperately combated in this song is another beautiful, brutal reminder of the power that Miles has in storytelling in his songs. Not just in Cannibalism, but in so many songs. There are so many beautiful recognitions of the harshnesses of reality, the beauty of self-destruction, and the clinical dissimulation of reality and how it unfolds. From this song to Technoanimism and to It's Quiet Too Quiet, which comes after, you'll notice that they offer three uniquely separate and yet linked admissions of how reality can seem to people in different situations. You'll notice that Technoanimism shows the idea of self-destruction as a means to self-preservation, whereas Cannibalism offers us the true meaning of love and the reality, the dark, gritty underbelly of the thing that we let chew us up and spit us out time and time again, and how we still continue to chase that. And with It's Quiet Too Quiet, you'll notice it offers the third standpoint that there's nothing wrong with being reliant. Often, needing to rely on something is one of the most precious reminders of humanity, and it's something very, very special to what makes us whole. Coming after these lines, we have, "And I'll be standing my ground till I die, till I die. You got me torn, but I'm not taken no more, no more, no more." These lines start a small repetition, which signifies a sense that he's really trying to convince himself, and that often we try to convince ourselves that we will finally stand our ground against everything that has brought us to this point. This is a recognition from perhaps Miles' standpoint, but also more introspectively ourselves, where we'll find that we'll look back and think, never again. Next time we'll do better. We will seek better. And yet, somehow, just like in the chorus, it never unfolds that way.
Every
We
single
fall back
fucking
into
time.
those same. Yep.
Every
We
time.
fall back into those same facts, though. It's so, man, it's horrifying, right?
Yeah.
You know, you take a look. I say you take a look. I take a look back specifically whenever I listen to this song, and I'm like, "Fuck, man, I'm an idiot," but I'd still do it again. Every single time, I'd still do it again, and that's what this song is. It's looking at ourselves as complete morons, and yet still waking up the next day and making the same mistakes,
Doing it all over.
expecting it to just slightly be different. And it never is. Everything always unfolds the same. And yet, we find comfort in that. And instead of hating it, we love how natural it feels.
Mm-hmm.
By acting. Sorry. By
good.
repeating these lines, it acts as a futile resistance or a front against love, in which, as I've previously just said, we immediately fold back on. In the lines following, contributing to the further idea that this war is also internal as well as external. Yes, the effects of love are reflected on the way we look, the way we act, and how we grow, but also the parts of ourselves that we don't share that start to outwardly reflect the humanity and start to skew us into something that not only we can't recognize, that nobody else recognizes. Oftentimes, you might find after being in love, you'll speak to someone and you'll share with them a part of what has happened, and you'll express how things made you feel, and you'll get small admissions that are honestly heartbreaking, in which people tell you that they don't even know who you are anymore too. You'll find that people who were once friends become memories that you can't return to, and people who could become friends you're unable to work toward to. In a similar fashion, though, the repetition really shows the uphill battle that love is. We all fight forward and up against everything that seeks to keep us from pushing onward. And you'll often notice that we don't ever make progress in love. We have that special start to a relationship, and we experience the beauty of what it could be, what it should be. And after a while, we come to this standstill. The relationship becomes sort of a stalemate, a cold war, in which two sides try to fight their differences out, while one waits until orders are offered in which he can follow, orders which beckon subservience. That same feeling of returning to something just because it's asked, not because it's wanted. Something that this song battles with throughout, which is evident in the line that comes after this, with "So burn me to tar, head to the scar. Just carry on, forget about us, 'cause we'll be alright." By continuing on this self-destructive habitual behavior, after making these half-hearted attempts at taking a stand through the previous repetition, he immediately moves to make a very weak acceptance and almost want for further damages to come sooner rather than later, so that he can grow accustomed to the pain and move past the pain already, which is something we're all guilty of. We want things to come faster so we can be used to them, so that the next time we inevitably become hurt, it feels the same. It no longer has that same impact, and it often morphs the way we look at love and another person, and it morphs the way we look at relationships. One thing that really stands out about the first of these lines is the use of This onomatopoeia is another example of Miles using the idea of sounds to signify some semblance of enjoyment. These kinds of minor, almost ad-libs are a very frequent part of the music and usually add to the overall feeling and emotional impact of the tracks. It's something we see even in Technoanimism, in this song, and in so many other songs. He lets out these soft to show that while it's sad, there is that level of enjoyment, of lusting for it. Another key and very pivotal example of this is in Werewolf in London. You'll notice he uses this same kind of onomatopoeia to show that no matter how much something destroys him and irreparably damages him, he loves it. He wants more. He will chase more because it feels good. In Werewolf in London, that could be, well, that is the idea of morphing into a werewolf, which is, as we've talked about before, as I mentioned before, the idea of turning into a werewolf is just a metaphor for drugs. However, here, this enjoyment is not just love. It's deeper than that. It's something much more twisted than that. It's the enjoyment of the pain that love brings, a true reminder of being alive. Some of the times in life where we feel the most like ourselves is when we are alone, crying in our room with the lights dimmed in our bed, listening to the most heartbreaking, gut-wrenching music we've ever heard. and we're just curled up under the sheets thinking about everything that brought us here. And that is often something that love is. It gives us room to feel that enjoyment of something. If we don't enjoy love, we can enjoy the pain that comes after, because it hurts, but it means we're alive. It means we are real. We are tangible. People can see us. People can feel us. And as time goes on, we might even feel ourselves. But that's not what this song is about. The second line continues this acceptance by expressing just carry on. A significant acknowledgement that really this is the norm for everyone. This is what we do, and any efforts to stop this cycle will be completely fruitless. Choosing to move away from this has no definitive answer, and instead would make us feel like we're chasing something that may not be real. At the very least, if we chase the pain and keep carrying on and accepting this reality, we can have a guaranteed reminder of something good, of something real. Ending verse 2 is one of the most human and beautifully written lyrics I think I've ever heard from Miles, which feels almost surreal to say. Because throughout his music, there's so many lyrics where you can hear and listen, and you're like, wow, I've never heard some shit like this before. You can hear the most mind-bending thing in a Sewerperson song and come away feeling like a changed person. And yet, something about the mood feeds into the tears I wipe. Oh, how you've grown. I can't believe my eyes. Is so special. Because this ends the track on such an inescapably bittersweet note that doesn't feel like the same defeat that we feel throughout, but instead changes this weak acceptance during the whole track to something much more gracious, which is not something we often see. You'll notice a lot of Sewerperson songs are very raw and filled with this disdain, almost apathy. But here there is a gracious, beautiful admission that this ending, this reality that he's in, is okay. The first line acts as a final reflection of the way his feelings show externally, but acknowledges that they become something he wipes away, something we wipe away. Tears that we cry after a relationship aren't tears because we're necessarily sad, but it's our way of cleansing ourselves, of starting fresh, much like rain. Rain is one of the world's natural forces, and it's a natural cleanser. It rejuvenates life. It keeps plants growing. Because rain is water, and water is part of us too. So having this same part of ourselves crying and releasing tears is our way of cleansing the end, of becoming okay and accepting and learning that sometimes the end of the cycle is just the start of a new beginning, and that doesn't always have to be scary. It's okay to want that. It's okay to chase that, and it's okay to accept that. A final attempt at a clean slate with the second line is so memorable. Because ending things with, "Oh, how you've grown, I can't believe my eyes," acts as this really unexpected happy note that isn't present anywhere else in this track. Everywhere else is laced with boredom, disillusionment, disenchantment, and disapproval. And here there is such a special fondness and love that resembles the ideal love that we all chase and that the song talks about seeking. This final line specifically subverts the expectations of love that we've drawn conclusions about from the rest of the song and changes it into something filled with admiration and awe, which feels like a final layer of hope to coat the self-destruction and unhealthy relationship with love. This is almost a corrective measure, but also, in part, this is healing. This is that same cleansing that shedding tears brings us. The song ends with a repeat of the hook. And normally, this isn't something you'd emphasize. This is something to be expected. You know, it's common. However, here, it's different. It feels more intentional. Because not only does it emphasize, once again, the same cyclical themes present throughout the entire track, but it also adds a fitting repetition at the very end of the hook this time with, so I could still love you, which still overrides all of the fear throughout with this glimmer of hope that things can be better, things can change, and things can feel better in the future. No matter how many times a cycle repeats, there is still always room for the cycle to break. And as we see in the final verse, at the very end, that's now okay. And wanting to love, wanting to have a real love, is in part special, even if it feels like an intention. And that's the beauty of Cannibalism. It's the ultimate love story that shows us the complete duality between love and war. Two things that, while seemingly juxtaposed, are actually the same thing. But on the flip of that, it's also okay for them to not be the same thing. Love doesn't always have to be this war, this battle. Sometimes it's okay for love to be this fond acceptance of another person, fond acceptance of yourself. And sometimes it's okay to let reality take you somewhere new, to let you experience something new and beautiful, to let you really love, to let you learn what real love is.
We'll finish this.
Yeah. But
all right, time to lock back in, bro. We got another breakdown. Well, you got another breakdown. I'm sitting here just like
it's like
the whole time, like, dude, half of Cannibalism. I was sitting here and I was like, this is so me.
it's such a fucking it really is one of those songs, man. It's like it's everybody, but at the same time, you know, it might feel like everybody, but it is also probably just Miles too. And it's weird to have him so kind of humanized, you know?
Yeah. It's in so much of his music though, bro. And there's so many
Yeah,
different variations of the message though. It's like the
yeah.
dude's kind of superhuman with his breakdowns and everything. How he conveys his
I feel that.
emotions.
I've never seen anything like it, like in my life.
Yeah, dude.
It's fucking wild.
Wild. Yeah, we back. That was the breakdown of cannibalism, and I once again I'm left speechless, as you can see from my camera the whole time. I'm sitting here and observing observing and absorbing every single word that's said because um I literally was just telling him, I was like, half of that time I felt like it was speaking directly to me and picking me apart. Um yeah, the next song on the docket though is actually a song that I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like much. I slept on a lot of the Evening album until I think I saw this song live, and I was like, it hits like different. Like there's a lot of his music. Um, I don't know, the storytelling in it was very specific, and I just felt like once I had the live listen of it, I was able to actually pick it apart because I couldn't get away from it. You know, like you can turn on music on Spotify and listen to the album and be playing a video game. But when you're at a show, you're locked in, you know? So the fact that I wasn't able to distract myself from the song, I got a good listen of it and the crowd loved it. So the energy was, contributes to my feelings of it. And it's a song that I've grown to enjoy a lot. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite ones, but it's definitely a great song now. I slept on it originally. So do you have anything to say before I play It's Quiet, Too Quiet?
You know, funnily enough, obviously, naturally, I have a very different experience with the song because of who I am. But I do see why it's like that though, because if you show this if you show a song like this to most people, it's gonna feel pretty like, it's gonna feel not as special, not as meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. It's one of those songs where you really do have to have like such a deep seated part of yourself within the song to really truly appreciate it, or at least have it presented in a way that makes you understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's it's one of the things that makes this song so easy to love when you do finally come to the
When
realization.
it clicks, yeah, dude. Because when it clicked,
Yeah,
I played it home when I was going home from the show, dude. Like literally, I think it was one of the first songs that I put on. I usually run the set list back right after the show, but I believe this was one of the first ones that I went back to like on the set list, and I don't know, dude. It sticks with me differently now that I saw it live and that I fully engulfed myself in invested myself in the performance too, with putting my hands up when everybody was putting their hands up, swaying side to side and all of that. Like it's I don't know, I wasn't able, like I said, I wasn't able to escape it, and when I fully gave it its chance, it's shining through. I really like Evening now too. I slept on that for so long, dude. That album's fantastic.
Evening is great. Yeah,
It's
it's
really,
so well put together too.
yeah. Well, Miles is changing my music taste, bro. Like I am a rap lover. I grew up on rap, like hip hop and rap. So the fact that he has me listening to, all emo, like it's kind of
No,
crazy.
I feel that one.
I love it.
I grew up on like 70s and 80s music, man. I grew up with my grandparents, so like this shit's like
Yeah,
between
bro.
this and rap, it's like a whole new thing.
It's it's awesome. I love it. I love it because I
Heck yeah.
learn something new every day too. So back to the programming. I am now gonna play Sewerperson. It's Quiet, Too Quiet, and this one was produced by Eric Godlow, right? Yep, Eric Godlow off of
Yo,
Evening. And afterwards, we're gonna listen to Still talk about it, and I'm gonna enjoy every single second of it, like I have for these past two. So enjoy the song, guys.
I'm being paranoid. Girl, can you reassure me that I am real as well, and I haven't been here before? Cause I'm getting paranoid. Maybe just try to hurt me, bring me to earth again, pull me up from hell. Late deployed, I'm in the trees again, but it's a real thing this time. I cannot try again. They hold a vantage point, they hit my closest friend, and they would have hit my heart too if I forgot the vest. Yeah, when we die, where does the conscience go? Like if I were to die too, would I return to home? Like would I be wrapped in peace? And would I be next to you? And would you be something to see? Or could I touch you too, my baby? Got me in paranoid. I think my favorite night is the kind that's meant to fade. The ones we take for granted now, the ones that slip away. I pray tomorrow's good enough to be a yesterday. Cause half the faces I remember never look the same. I'm being paranoid. Girl, can you reassure me that I am real as well, and I haven't been here before? Cause I'm getting paranoid. Maybe just try to hurt me, bring me to earth again, pull me up from hell. Paranoid. Girl, can you reassure me that I am real as well, and I haven't been here before? Cause I'm getting paranoid. Maybe just try to hurt me, bring me to earth again, pull me up from hell.
Beautiful.
I just realized I was muted. I said, God fucking. But yeah, I said, what a song. That shit gives me goosebumps every time I listen to it. I fucking love that song so much. It's so good.
Bro. I'm gonna leave that in, by the way, where you were like, I just realized I'm muted. I have to leave that in.
Yeah, that's funny as fuck. But yeah, so leading into that, this is It's Quiet, Too Quiet, Deconstructed. It's Quiet, Too Quiet is nothing short of a masterpiece. On the surface, this song is a veteran's existential crisis in the face of reality, a mission probably long prepared for that quickly unravels the unreadiness of the soldiers. Beyond that though, this song serves as a comforting lullaby that deals with both life and mental health struggles in a way that's nothing short of mesmerizing. Perhaps this song holds more value for me than others, but the song's chorus alone feels a silent confession that someone struggling may dare to never utter, battling with paranoia and needing to find things to serve as anchor points in a reality is a cruel turn of fate many people face throughout their lives. This is a song that rings heavier for me than maybe some of Miles's other tracks, but that's because it's one of the few tracks I've heard in my life that feels like acceptance and acknowledgement. For that reason, and also for the fact of how applicable it is to so many people, I feel as though this is one of those perfect songs that capture a feeling that no other song does. Whether it be from the lyrics to the actual song itself, you'll notice that very simply, the beat serves the same message that the song gives us. It does offer an anchor point, which is all what this song is about, needing a gracious and healthy reminder that we are real. The song follows the same kind of notes repeated the entire time. And the fact that never changes is what this song is searching for. It's what people that struggle with very severe mental health problems, be it something like schizophrenia or a personality disorder that perhaps helps them become detached from reality or anything of the sort, anything that could induce a feeling of being unreal, from trauma to mental health to just experiences. Having something very simple and something that repeats and is memorable is a good way to ground yourself. It's a good thing to be able to latch onto, because things that repeat and things that stay the same are very few and far between. So having the song be on a beat like that, whilst also having the lyrics follow the message that they do and the story that they do, give multiple feelings of refuge that can offer as a safe space in a time where you might not have one. And beyond that, it can serve as a reminder that not only are you alive, but that you've faced trials like this before, and you've lived to tell the tale. The beauty of a song being able to capture the notion of life, but also the grievances that come with not knowing if you are alive, paired with something that can ground you in the reality that you're unable to acknowledge, and also find few moments of clarity in which the lucidity in the song provides lucidity in real life, it's a completely unmistakable and inescapable fact. And I know that as someone who the song has helped, that this song works. It sets out to tell a story, and it achieves that purpose, but it achieves something much more special that people might struggle to find everywhere else, which is another thing that is very prevalent in Miles's music. From the sad to the stories to the hype, having things that can attach to memories, that can replicate memories, and can fill the hole where memories once were, is beautiful. And there is no other artist in the world that can achieve all three of those things simultaneously and still live to tell the tale. I'm very thankful for this song. I am sure many people are very thankful for many of other Miles' songs. Without further ado, let us start with the chorus. So, the song starts with the hook. I'm being paranoid. Girl, can you reassure me that I'm real as well, and I haven't been here before? This sets the ambiance and tone in preparation for the rest of the song. It follows an extremely short pattern of syllables used to create a feeling of being short of breath and exasperation, the kind of panic and anxiety you can feel when intensely paranoid and unable to firmly ground yourself. Throughout the whole chorus, no more than 2 syllables are used, except for 2 words: paranoid and reassure. Paranoid acts as the primary breaking point of the 1 to 2 syllable word scheme in the hook, where reassure acts as the positive break in the scheme, used to signify redemption and a need for a positive grounding force to help things feel real. Paranoid is the initial negative break that acts to disrupt the scheme by adding more pressure to the already seemingly inescapable drowning that comes with paranoid disconnection. Beyond that, and more surface level, the hook serves as the ultimate anchor point, which becomes much more relevant later in the track. The actual content of the chorus consists of a cry for help and an acknowledgement of that cry for help, paired with need. Girl, can you reassure me that I am here, that I am real as well, and I haven't been here before, is a line that reflects a lot of the confusion that comes with being disconnected from reality. This disconnection is often caused by deep-seated trauma, which in this case would be as a result of the mission or military operation he later references. But phrasing these lines as a question adds a very real and almost haunting undertone to the track. Being uncertain of reality and being uncertain of yourself is something that can contribute to the intensity of fear and anxiety. When you feel your grip on reality begin to slip, the shortness of the lines and the words replicates the haphazard reactivity of trying to latch on to the smallest things that could serve as a reminder that you are real. For the second half of the chorus, because I'm getting paranoid, maybe just try to hurt me. Bring me to earth again. Pull me up from hell. This serves as an acknowledgement of the paranoia, and this time offers some of those same grief-stricken haphazard reactions with the lines I just mentioned. Which feels like another futile attempt to search for something to pull him back into reality. People often feel pain as a way to let themselves know if they're real or not. We inflict pain on ourselves, or we ask someone to inflict pain on us so that we can be reminded we are alive. However, it can be both used positively for a dream and negatively for a nightmare. But here there's no real intention backing the words. Instead, it's just an aimless searching for something that will serve as an anchor point and help to offer clarity in the face of uncertainty. Having no real emotional attachment leaning either way, like to signify if this need for pain is positive or negative, really reinforces that same disconnect and the paranoia of not feeling real. Because when you're in those states, you often search for anything, but you can't feel anything other than the fear, the anxiety, the non-existence. The supreme need for grounding comes at the cost of being unable to differentiate whether things are good or bad. There is no positive or negative. There is only the desire and need to feel real. And that is the single most frightening thing in the universe. For someone who might feel like they've lived their entire life on the strings of another person, having that feeling taken away from you feels worse than death. That level of paranoia and uncertainty, when you've never faced it before, or when you're not used to facing it, is very costly, both physically and mentally. And you'll notice that as we get into verse 1, the costs of the trauma become very, very apparent and become very, very real. Which is one of the only things in this song that acts as an admission of reality. Starting off verse 1, we have late deploy, I'm in the trees again. But it's the real thing this time. I cannot try again. These act literally as mission start, both figuratively and literally. The mission begins by immediately detailing how rapidly things derail. This is both the story and the feeling. The second line puts emphasis on the reality of things and stands to be effectively the acknowledgement of where the concept of reality begins for him. However, this use of this time and I cannot try again in this line have the implication that he has lived through this time and time again, both during training and all the times that he may have lived through these scenarios in his head. The countless hours of preparation and readying himself and trying to prepare for all of the paths that could come and all of the results would have been unfolding on loop in his head. But this first line subtly nods to "I'm in the trees again," which makes it feel like this is within his margin of error. All of this, where he is now, the late deploying, the mission being real, not being able to try again, these are all things he's expected. These are things he's accounted for, which is perfect. Because as someone who may struggle with having to prepare themselves for things, you'll often find before things come along, you will anticipate entire days, weeks, months, everything that you know is coming. You will live through it on a loop in your head until the moment it unfolds. And no matter how many times you try to prepare, no matter how many times you try to live through a reality that hasn't happened yet, when it gets down to it, the only thing that will happen is the thing that does happen. It's impossible to truly predict what's coming next by just imagining it. And so having things rapidly unravel and derail from the moment things start, even though it seems like it's within his margin for error, it marks the point of where the understanding of possibility and the reality of things happening become mutually inescapable. There's no difference from this point forward, because nothing else matters now. Everything else was unaccounted for. No matter how many times he'd prepared himself, he still could have never prepared himself for the truth. The three lines that follow after that, they hold the vantage point, they hit my closest friend, and they would have hit my heart too if I had forgot the vest, continue to show how the mission derails. Very specifically, they hold the vantage point. It feels extremely critical to showing the forced disadvantages of his position in this mission, and with his friend dying shows how easy to exploit vulnerabilities it would be for those who hold the vantage point, both literally and figuratively in this case, showing that where he currently stands in his life, exploiting him wouldn't be difficult. It would be almost expected. It would be so easy and doable. And having this being a marked sign point for when things start to truly unravel for the rest of the song, and reality becomes more of a question than certainty, means that this line shows a much more vicious and scary side to the fact that when someone can grasp reality better than you can, they can exploit you more than you can ever prepare for. It's hard for you to truly know the intentions of another person when you can't even understand the intentions of yourself. How could you ever be expected to predict what comes next if you can never truly predict when you'll be able to feel real, when you'll have a positive force in your life that moves you away from the detachment of reality. Another thing to note about the two lines that come before, and they would have hit my heart too if I had forgot the rest, is the shortness of the first two lines here. It contributes to just how fast and unexpected things unfold, leaving no time to even mourn or grieve, and replacing the guilt with an immediate relief that he didn't make the same mistakes that those around him make. Having this be grief instead of guilt would have taken away from the intention of the song. So, replacing the guilt and the grief with relief means that he's able to move away and move on and not recognize the gravity of the situation. Because in truth, in a situation like this, when you're faced with an unexpected reality and you're faced with a conclusion you didn't account for, it's one of the fastest ways to become detached from reality. It's one of the fastest ways to lose yourself, lose fragments of who you are, and become a fractured, hollow realization of something you never could have accounted for. And so, replacing this possible grief, this possible guilt, with this relief means that he's able to move on without even acknowledging the actual sadness of how things unfold, which adds another layer to the song of the fact that being apathetic to the things around you can often be your saving grace. Being unable to truly recognize the depth of just how tragic the mistakes and the undoings of those around you is can prevent you from becoming undone yourself. Sometimes the scariest part, though, is the aftermath. The aftermath of when you do come to that realization, or it's pointed out that maybe this part of you that is ignorant for your own self-preservation's sake is inhuman, is another very important flip to just how deep these feelings can go, and just how important trauma and traumatic experiences can contribute to different feelings and different destruction of yourself. The second half of verse 1 starts with, "Yo, when we die, where does the conscious go? Like, if I were to die too, would I return to home?" This starts the beginning of a series of existential questions which mark the start of his slipping grasp. Each question leaves him with another question, and the paranoia etched in each word pushes the disconnect between him and reality. In the same way, it also marks the beginning of his short-lived efforts to try and make sense of everything, and also try to make the death of his friend seem less final in his head. Instead of framing his questions directly about the person who died, by not acknowledging it, he chooses to ask the questions as if he were to be the person who died, seemingly preparing himself for the inevitable possibility that this could have, should have, and might still be him. There's still something to be said, though, about how instead of having that guilt in these lines of someone died, by framing it as, if I were to die, what would happen? it shows a very gross neglect in his care for humanity and his care for his surroundings, which is the same apathy I just mentioned, but a lot more real, because he brings it to the forefront of the song and makes it unignorable. There's no guilt here anymore, and there's no relief. It's more so morbid curiosity. The kind of curiosity you feel in the aftermath, where usually you'd be sad, but in this case, the sadness is vacant, it's absent, because having that sadness would serve no purpose other than offering a reality which would push him away from reality. The 4 lines that follow this, like, would I be wrapped in peace, and would I be next to you, and would you be something to see, or could I touch you too, my baby, are very specific. He uses like would I be wrapped in peace to follow the previous lines wondering of what it would be like if he were to die. Though rather than asking if he'd be able to rest in peace, he uses wrapped as a reference to when sometimes veterans may have their coffins wrapped in a nation's flag as a sign of honor and respect and their thanks for service, a subtle acknowledgement of them laying down their lives for the country. Some flags are symbolic of things like peace or freedom. So asking would I be wrapped in peace here acts as a subtle question of if he would finally be free from drowning in paranoia and the constant need to have reality reaffirmed in his mind. Coming after this and would I be next to you, and would you be something to see, or could I touch you too, my baby, these lines in the same context as the line immediately before feel very weighted, seemingly asking if when he died he'd be next to one he loves. Though instead of asking if they'll be waiting for him when he makes his return home, he frames it as if he's asking if he would have to look on at them from the grave. Or when he asks, could I touch you too, it seems like in a twisted, deeply rooted, yearning moment of weakness. He has hope that his disconnection from reality that he spent so long trying to escape from becomes real, and the person he loved wasn't real in what he thought was reality, and that in death he'll be joined with the ghost of the one he loved, rather than expecting to look on at someone that he had potentially loved. Having such a twisted and cruel look at that line of thinking, of having to decipher in your mind whether it would be better to look on at someone you loved after you died, in the same vein as one of Miles's other songs, Words from the Dying, in which, he mentions, I will guide you from the afterlife. I'm still here. I'm just in your walls. Feel my blood flow when you check your pulse. Instead, here, he seems to have a want for them to have not been real, so that he can still feel that same comforting presence in death that he did in life. After this, we're given the bridge. The bridge offers us nothing inherently special in terms of words. There's no specific wording or intensely difficult expression. However, what the bridge does offer is a repetition of I'm being paranoid, sometimes being cut short before making it through the whole line, adding to or following the same short of breath structure that the chorus consists of, and tries to fuel his own need for grounding to basically no avail. It also acts as a short moment of clarity between both verses, in which the lucidity allows him to recognize just how unrealistic he's being, and yet still that lucidity begins to fade before he can save himself fully, and the second verse cuts in with a monologue in the final moments. Verse 2, as I've just said, is a short standing monologue of, I think my favorite night is the kind that's meant to fade. The ones we take for granted, now the ones who slip away. I pray tomorrow's good enough to be a yesterday, 'cause half the faces I remember never look the same. The shortness of verse 2 lends itself to the very brief, fleeting moment of clarity that starts escaping him in the bridge, and offers us a very exasperated monologue from a man exhausted by the weight of his own mental instability, caused by a trauma that he was more than unready for, just like most people would be. You'll notice that I think my favorite night is the kind of meant to fade, the ones we take for granted, now the ones who slip away, are two lines that seemingly share the same message on the surface. The idea that he loves the nights and the moments that don't last, and implies that the temporary nature adds much more value and makes them more special and memorable, than following it with the ones we take for granted, now the ones who slip away, which seems to reference that when these special fleeting moments come in abundance, they lose the essence of what makes them truly special, and they end up fading into the background, never to be remembered anyway. The other part to this line is that he's referencing not only the friend who died, but people that do die in general, and talks about how often we as people lose those we love when we don't fear losing them, and we severely underplay just how impactful they are on our lives as a whole. Oftentimes, you'll notice that in your personal life, you'll have a loved one or a friend or just someone you know die or leave or just fade away without you ever realizing. And there'll come a time where you're brought with the very hollow realization that they did have a very meaningful impact on your life, and they brought something very special that no other person could truly replicate. Having that taken away from you without even knowing it is something very, very key. It's very integral to this track. This track's all about losing without knowing, without being able to ever truly get back to the start. At no point in this track is there ever a moment where he truly feels safe or real or grounded or normal. Just like in life, when you lose someone or something, there is no other person or experience or thing that could perfectly replicate those same feelings, that same reality that they once did. No matter who or what tries, it will be a different memory. It won't be an honor to the memory that you lost. It will be something completely separate. And for as long as you live and remember that, you will still yearn to remember what those feelings feel like. Sometimes one of the harshest parts about reality isn't about whether we feel real. It's about not knowing when reality is going to leave. It's about forgetting what reality feels like. It's about losing sight of the things that ground us and make us whole. I pray tomorrow's good enough to be a yesterday, 'cause half the faces I never looked the same, further details the traumatic impact of the events that unfolded in the beginning of the first verse by stressing that he does hope to live another day, but he underlines it with acknowledgement of how scarred he's been in the aftermath of all he's been witness to. The final line also seems to nod to the idea of this. The final line also seems to nod to the idea that he may have some form of shell shock, as that's another thing that's known to have such deep-rooted psychological impacts, such as amnesia and making it impossible to recognize phases. Shell shock is one of those brutal parts of war that no one ever talks about. Shell shock is one of those realities that often escapes us. But when we're brought face to face with that reality, we can never escape it. The song ends once more with the chorus repeated twice over this track, ending on the same note it started, battling a mental war caused by the traumatic memories of a literal one. Repeating the hook twice really adds to just how severe and difficult the battle he faces is, and shows that it's not something that anyone could easily escape. This reality is the one that is now forced upon him, one where the lines between real and fake blend so seamlessly that noticing it is harder than that which caused the damage in the first place. It's Quiet Too Quiet is the perfect psychological narrative dancing under the pretense of a soldier's worst nightmare coming to life.
Say better than that. Oh.
I,
That last one was like, I don't know. I didn't really catch when I was listening to it, because I listened to it. This is where the same thing that happened with Werewolf in London happened, dude. Is you looked at it from a different lens, you know. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, you're talking about war, which yeah, it's tied in and everything, but I didn't look at it as if he was like the actual soldier himself going through, and the shell shock in the end. Like, that was a good mention, dude. Like, you really dug on that one.
I was the shell shock was one of those things where when I was like really thinking about it, is it's such a vivid and real possibility here, because the song is about war, but it's got such a deeply like rooted like psychological like narrative to it, that having something like shell shock, where you do often forget a lot of things that most people wouldn't even think could be forgotten. It really ties the whole song together perfectly.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, the breakdown ties all of the lyrics together perfectly too. That was great. I hope everybody really enjoyed that, man. That's the set, pretty much. That's Sill's take on Technoanimism, Cannibalism, and we just heard It's Quiet Too Quiet. 3 songs that are pretty different, I'd say, in Miles' discography. They're, they land on opposite sides. It was how'd you choose these 3 songs? Because like I just said, they're so kind of different from each other. Like, Technoanimism and Cannibalism had similar themes inside of it, like, self-inflicted wounds. But this one's It's Quiet Too Quiet came out of, like, the ballpark.
Yeah, so initially I didn't think about It's Quiet Too Quiet, because this was one of those songs just in general where it takes me a lot to get through this song personally. Like, it's one that I tend to tune out when I listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I love it, It's a very hard listen. So it was one of those songs I never thought to break down until, I got kind of I got encouragement from Jude. I was speaking to Jude.
Shout out Jude, bro. Yo,
that-
get him on
yeah,
here
bro,
too.
Bro, Jude is awesome. That guy can sing his ass off. That guy has one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard.
Does he? If he has music out there, submit a song, bro.
I've been trying to get him to record something, so he's working. He's working.
All right. Well, Jude, I'd like to have you on just as a complimentary face, and so this community can show love to you too, because you contributed to this. So
Facts. Couldn't have done it without him. Fucking love that guy. But yeah, so I was speaking to him, and he was like, I showed him my list of songs. I was like, hey, listen, like all these songs are really good contenders. As you know, I like when I showed you the list, I had Werewolf and Paris in there.
Mm-hmm.
But when I showed him this list, we went through all the songs, and the first thing he said to me was, "Wait, where's It's Quiet Too Quiet?" I was like, I really love that song, but I'm not sure I can sit through it for an entire breakdown. And he was like, nah, fuck all that noise. This is your one moment to shine. You've got to do the songs that mean the most to you and you can express the most impact about. And I was like, fuck, you're right. So I was like, I don't want to start with this song, because starting on a note like this would have been a bit hard. It wouldn't have felt right. And Cannibalism was a perfect midpoint. It felt like a good bridge of, I just talked about Technoanimism, which is sort of a more hype song in part. It's a lot more, it's got more energy to it than the other two.
Yep.
And Cannibalism was the kind of love story. I wanted to talk about a song that was a love story specifically because I feel like it's an integral part of the music. It's within every song in some part.
Yeah.
And that was a perfect way for me to then end with It's Quiet Too Quiet. We started on a song that's much less about reality and love so much as it is about humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And then we fell into something that's to do with humanity, more about love and feeling and emotion.
Like the driving point of humanity,
And
I would say that is.
Yeah, the driving point of humanity. And then It's Quiet Too Quiet follows the parts of humanity that don't get talked about.
Yeah.
The dark recesses of humanity's mind.
Bro had a full circle moment in these last 3 hours. Holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
You brought everything full circle and hit all the bases in one breakdown as if you weren't gonna be back. But you're gonna be back in the future. I honestly, dude, I would love to have I'm gonna put this in the episode, but I'd love to have a episode where you and Heber sit down and have the conversation, and I'll run the I'll turn my camera off and you guys be on camera and do your things, bro. Like, I would love for you guys to be interacting. That'd be sick. Oh my god, I just had that idea, and I think that is fucking dope. Heber, you're going to do that.
Yeah, fuck Heber, get that boy.
Yo,
yeah.
Hey, he's a new staff member too, so drop some W's in the chat right now for the new staff members. Big
W Heber.
Yeah,
W
Heber.
Dev.
Yo, man, stop.
That's our host right there.
I'm blushing over here, man. I'm just giving people a platform, bro. It might not be the biggest platform, but it's a platform enough where people see it and feel seen while listening to it. So for somebody who's so passionate about not just watching but participating, the least I could do is give you a couple hours just to talk about some stuff that really means something to you. So big thanks to you for coming through and steering us through these breakdowns, man, and keeping the focus on what's actually inside of the music and how it makes you feel, how it can be interpreted. You did a great job. That was fantastic.
I appreciate you, Dev. Thank you for letting me. This was amazing.
Hell yeah,
I loved
dude.
every second of this.
Hell yeah. Next up is going to be episode 10, Community Voices with Heber. It's your stories, your questions, your experiences, you could send me pictures that you want me to put up. If you have a couple videos from a concert, send anything through that you want me to see. If you can't use the confession bot to send images, I think you should be able to, but if you can't, you probably, I don't know. If you can't, just send them in the server under the Miles media. We have a whole section where you can just share media from all of that. But yeah, if you have a confession and you want to submit something for episode 10, like I said earlier, it's all centered around community submissions, Reddit posts, threads in the Discord, all of that. Drop a /confess in the Discord, or comment on a YouTube video. I will see it. I'll try to integrate it into the episode. I'm hoping the episode's going to be an hour and a half. Hopefully 2 hours. I want a good 2-hour episode with community submissions, just so we can have so many people involved again, because it really matters, and I think bringing Sil up was a great stepping stone in showing that I'm serious about not just giving a couple people who I've been friends with for a long time. Like Heber's been my boy for a while, but I'm trying to give people that platform to talk about stuff. Whether it's a song that I choose for them to talk about and I do a breakdown, or whether it's, hey, Sil, you want to do something? Your breakdowns have been amazing. Here's full permission to do as many songs as you want for as long as you want. I didn't give him no time limit, no limit of songs that he could do. I didn't tell him he couldn't do any songs. He came to me with a list and was just like, yo, I'm going to do these. And I was like, perfect, bro. I'll be ready when you are. That's my whole point with this. Is this platform is ready for you guys when you are, whether you want to comment, submit, be on it. It's here for you. So make sure you're tapped in on the YouTube, press that notification button, subscribe, like, comment, all of that. I hate saying it because it sounds robotic, but I really need to, because I need everybody's help to get into that algorithm again. We dropped out of it since I lost my Instagram, but we're gonna get back, I promise. This was episode 9 of Conversations in the Sewer. It's the podcast from the people who built the community for the people who live in it. And we'll see y'all next week. Hope you enjoyed this. The song I'm playing right now.
We gotta smile, Dove.
Yo, we gotta smile.
Yeah, we gotta smile.
Here we go. So I love that we do that. It's so wholesome.
Yeah. It's so good.
I'm leaving that in too, that you just caught me, because they're gonna love that. This song that I'm playing, I asked Sil for opinions on opening and closing songs, and he was just like, one that I think ties into everything that would be good is Human Beings from 002. So this is Sewerperson, produced by Neverfall and Brandwin, Human Beings. Shout out to Sil, for real. This was amazing. You're gonna come through again, whether it's talking about breakdowns or anything, bro. We're gonna have you on, because this was enjoyable. And talking before talking before I even pressed record too was fun, bro. So we're gonna
Facts.
Yeah, we're gonna. I chat. Love y'all. Shout out to Sil, for real. I hope everybody enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed. Have a good night, guys.
We didn't think there is normalized. It seems that this chaos, it harmonized perfectly with this stormy night. Look at my hands, cause I've been burned alive. The longest 9 months on her fragile spine. It left her son with no good inside. When he grows up to fetishize homicide, she will freeze in his arms, dazed and horrified. Please hide from the precious cobblestone. It's clean of human life. Technology shitbox at best, so they order the public back inside home at night. But it was never your fault. The people surrounding him forced him to evolve. I pray, repents for the pain that he's caused. I'm skeptic and saving him even with God on my side, bro, yeah. You see, throw him out and see
Another beautiful song. That was Human Beings. This is Lovesick.
Sunny, I'll be alright with this potion in my tummy. Yeah, this is my shit, you cannot take it from me. I get toxic when it comes to how I'm loving you. Know love's a mosh pit, and I think I'm seeing red. I'll be honest, I can't get you on my head. I know you know that feeling, you know that feeling. Know you love that feeling, you know that feeling. Yeah. Oh, you know, baby, I can break you in good. I said, don't you try, but you know I wish you would. Cause I can show you things you never heard before. I told you I could give you more than just a dream that I sold you. I'm back in my place with a vibe on a Clyde. Take you to the 6 side, get you online. Girl, if you on my side, I'll show you the bright side. Miami and high tide, we'll just die. I can't wait to fuck ya, I can't wait to crush ya. Let me roll this blunt up, then we go die. Take me as I am, cause I can't be no one else. Where was everybody when I needed me some help? So let's fuck it all, need 'em, I can do this shit myself. Plenty drugs that I can finish by myself. That's the way it go. But you just like be the one I lean on. Come through tonight and be the one I'm sweet on. I would've waited forever for you. I'd do whatever you wanted me to do. I can hear you in my head like shit, and I think I'm seeing red. I'll be honest, I can't get you on my head. I know you know that feeling, you know that feeling. Know you love that feeling, you know that feeling. You know love's a mosh pit, and I think I'm seeing red. I'll be honest, I can't get you on my head. I know you know that feeling.
Boom. Episode 9 from Pain to Poetry Part 3, Sillside. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye, YouTube.